Welcome to the group exhibit Hydrogen Fuel Cells Batteries at the Hanover Fair 2017. My name is Muriel Burkas, and I would like to welcome with me on stage Doug Richmond from RIX Industries. He's a sales manager, and he will talk today about the driving down costs to unleash the expansion of vehicle fueling infrastructures. Please have a seat, help yourself with some coffee, some drinks, and I'm looking forward to your questions afterwards. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for being here. As a lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar, one of the biggest issues we have today with the vehicle refueling market is the actual infrastructure and building that infrastructure. One of the biggest issues is cost. Everything is extremely expensive right now as we start to roll out into the development of these things. So today we're going to be focusing on some things we can do, and our company in particular is doing to drive down that cost. So for the agenda, we'll go over a brief overview of our company, RIX, some of the barriers to adoption for the hydrogen refueling compressor technology, and then questions and answers afterwards. So a little bit about our company. We're one of the older companies here, built actually in 1878 we were established, so been around for about 140 years. And we initially got started in the mining industry, and then quickly adapted to some compressors for the US military. And we've actually got some units that we built for some pneumatic cannons and some pretty cool stuff back in the day that we did. And then taking off into the 50s, a large portion of our business was, again, military, about 60%. And then in the 90s, we really started taking off into the commercial applications. And you can see we've got introductions of quite a new products over the last couple of years, and then introducing a lot of these high-pressure hydrogen compressors, which is something we'll talk about today. So this is a great slide. I love this slide. It's a little bit about who we are. So, again, we've been around for a very long time, have a lot of great history, got some really cool stories of our products. I had a story of a guy recently called up our service department and was talking about a compressor, and we looked up the model and the serial number, and we'd shipped that unit in like 1920 or something like that, and he was still running that compressor to this day, which was kind of a cool story. So, but yeah. So got a lot of cool history and heritage, and then what we really do is we build custom compressors and we solve problems. So if there's an application or a need for a compressor, we have a very good engineering team, and we really thrive on the custom design compressors, and that's one of our core competencies. So we've got 3 business dedication. So we've got the commercial team, which is the group that I'm in. We've got an aerospace team, which is doing some pretty cool stuff. We have some really small compressors that do very high pressures, up to 350 bar, that actually go on the aircraft and help them release some munitions. And then we've got a DoD, or a military group, a lot of shipboard compressors. And then a little background for our presence. We've got our headquarters in Benicia, California. Got some satellite facility and manufacturing across the U.S., and then some strategic partners across the continent. Sorry. So now into a little bit of what we're talking about at the beginning, the infrastructure. So right now, everybody knows we have a chicken and egg issue, they'd say, right? So you build the vehicles, but you don't have the infrastructure, nobody's going to buy the vehicles. If you don't have the infrastructure, conversely, same thing. So in the U.S., we have two main forms of hydrogen production. So you've got the liquid and gas. So on site, you would have a large liquid container as one of the options, and it works really well when you have a larger demand. When you have a smaller demand, you have a lot of boil loss. You're losing a lot of that gas, so it doesn't make as much sense. And then you've got obviously a tube trailers, which would be the section over here. The problem with this second option is, your compressors are very expensive, and that's what we're going to be focusing on a little bit today, is driving down some of the costs of compression. So this is a brief overview. There are other technologies, but this is some of the main technologies they use to compress hydrogen in gaseous form. So the first, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar, and probably one of the most known, is the diaphragm type compressor. They're really good at making high pressure. And you can see I've kind of organized it here by pressures going down. You've got intensifiers, which are piston design units, but with hydraulically driven. You've got ionic compressors, and then recips. They'll all do the 700 bar requirement, or 1,000 bars, most of the tank pressure. But you can see kind of a common theme across the board is the cost. All of these are very expensive. And the maintenance is also very expensive. So you pay a lot for these, compressors. There's a lot of money spent in maintenance, and so it's really one of the biggest issues with the infrastructure is driving down the cost of these compressor packages, a couple conventions, etc. So a little bit about our particular product. We design oil-free reciprocating piston compressors. So two main designs here. You've got the water-cooled and an air-cooled. But again, you can see both of them have pistons. These have fins with cooling drawn over, and then air. In the water jackets here, you have water going throughout, cooling the cylinders. And these are kind of our main designs that we have. Going into a little bit more detail, you've got, the gas comes into the compressor, goes through a suction valve into the compression chamber. Piston moves down, moves up, compresses out the discharge valve. And a lot of your wear and tear items are going to be in this area here. So you've got your valves, which are constantly opening and closing. So that's a wear item. You've got your piston with your rings and your landings. This is what actually is sealing the gas and compressing it on to the next stage. You're constantly wearing out these seals. And then also a lot of times with a precious gas or a hazardous gas, you're capturing that gas. Any blow by, you capture and send it back to inlet, or in this case, it's double acting, it's compressing in both directions. And so you have these packings that are also wearing out. So you've got a lot of parts and pieces that are constantly, running and wearing out. And so, our goal is to develop, and we're currently in development of a new technology that would actually be a ringless piston. So instead of having these compression rings, which is kind of hard to tell here, and these rider bands, you'd actually have a ringless design. So you've got a piston in here that has no rings on it, it's non-contacting, and so you've got a lot less maintenance on these units. And so the goal is, again, to reduce the overall package price, but also the design for these compressors to simplify things and increase the reliability of these units. And that's something that we're working on currently. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Oh, 1 second.
What is the minimum inlet pressure?
So there is no minimum. Typically 5 to 10 bar is what most people have, depending on the application. But we do, close to or near atmospheric pressure all the way up to 300-400 bar. But mostly on inlet pressure, our range is somewhere between 5 to 10 bar. Thank you.
Further questions?
Hi, how's the adoption compared to US and Europe? Do you guys have success here in Europe with those products yet, or is it fairly new?
So you're talking about adoption of our compressors or adoption of the... Okay, yeah.
The compressors.
So, that's a good question. So we've been doing a lot of business, since in one of the earlier strides, commercial stuff. About the 70s, 80s, we started building more industrial compressors and selling, compressors worldwide, if you will. We do a lot of business. It depends on the year, but our split is usually around 50%, 40 to 70. Depends on the year. A lot international, some in the US, but a lot of our products are stateside as well, so yeah.
Any further questions? Otherwise, I would thank you very much for the presentation and your time. If there are further questions or discussions you want to have later on, the booth is right on the left side, C51. Go by and say hi.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. So the next presentation will start in about 5 minutes. 20 past 2 o'clock. It will be from Fraunhofer Institut für Chemische Technologie, ICT, angewandte Elektrochemie. And the topic will be electrochemistry centered services for fuel cells and other electrochemical power sources. Please stay with us. We're looking forward to the next presentation. Thank you.